That's a polynomial. That's a polynomial.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to Chapter 7. We're looking at polynomials here, Algebra 1, Big Ideas Curriculum. And we're going to jump into 7.2. We're multiplying binomials for the most part in this lesson. That's what we'll be learning how to do, multiplying two binomials together. So in the last one, we looked at how to add polynomials, how to subtract polynomials, and now we're looking at the operation of multiplying polynomials. At the end, we're going to be looking at how to even multiply a binomial times a trinomial. We'll see that as well. All right, before we get into our lesson, let's take a look at our cartoon for the day. So we have this dog here trying to scheme this cat into getting into the, looks like the washing machine. Cat food. Didn't know how to spell the food. Oh please, get into the washer. You can just see if he gets in the washer, he just slams the door and traps the cat. All right, not sure what he's thinking about, what he's going to do with that cat, but I'm not sure. All right, let's go on to looking at our first part here. We're going to multiply polynomials, and the first way we're going to look at, there's several different ways that we can multiply these, and you can kind of just pick the way you like the best and keep using that. But the first way is just a horizontal method of multiplying, so using a horizontal method. And so it's kind of like a double distributive property method, I kind of think of it as. So we're going to take the first one here, so you have a binomial times another binomial, and they're right next to each other, right like this. The parentheses are touching, that means they're multiplying each other. So we're going to take the first term of that binomial and multiply it by the 2 in the blue one here. So x times the x plus 5, and then the second one here with the red, just 2, and multiply it by x plus 5. And then here we're just going to distribute this x into this one. We're going to distribute the 2 into this one. We'll end up with 4 terms now at this point. So the x times x, the x times 5, the 2 times x, and the 2 times 5 give us 4 terms. We multiply them. And then we want to just, at the end, just clean it up and combine like terms here. These two in the middle, 5x and 2x, can combine to a 7x. And so that ends up being our answer. So our answer here is a trinomial of x squared plus 7x plus 10. So that's what our answer is for the multiplication of these two binomials. All right, let's take a look at our extra practice on page 212 there in your notes. I'll do number 1 and number 4, and then you guys are going to do 2, 3, and 5, and 6 here that I have in green. So number 1, the first thing we're looking at is the x times the x minus 1. That's what we're going to do first, x times x minus 1. And then it's going to be the negative 2 times the x minus 1 as well. Second one in the first parenthesis times that second parenthesis. So negative 2 times x minus 1. And now when we distribute for the x, and here's how kind of I like to do it. I like to kind of put them in column method when I do this method. So x times x is x squared, x times negative 1 is negative x. So we have that, negative, or x squared minus x. Then negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. So then we have this, and I like to line them up so that they're kind of more of in a column form. So when I combine like terms, I can see, okay, these are the two that are like terms here. The negative x and negative 2x, that makes a negative 3x. So our answer then is x squared minus 3x plus the 2. So this one just comes down to our answer. These two combine to negative 3x, and this one comes to our answer. All right, let's take a look at number 4. So we start with a times the 2a plus 5. That's the first part. Then negative 1 times, again, the 2a plus 5. So negative 1 times 2a plus 5. Distribute now for the first one here in red. A times 2a is 2a squared. A times the 5 is a 5a. Negative 1 times this is just going to change both signs. So it's going to be negative 2a minus 5. So and I'm going to put the negative 2a underneath the 5a, because those are like terms. And so now the 2a squared is going to come to our answer. These two should combine. 5 minus 2 is going to give me positive 3a, and then negative 5 comes to my answer. So there's our answer, 2a squared plus 3a minus 5. All right, so go ahead and pause the video at this point and do these other 4 that are in this section, 2, 3, 5, and 6. Multiply those binomials and then play it to check your answer. All right, so hopefully you have answers for 2, 3, 5, and 6. Let's go ahead and check to see if you were able to do these correctly. So for the ones that are with the b variable, so this is what you should have done to multiply them out. And then you should have ended up with b squared coming down. You're going to combine here to a negative b, and then the negative 6 comes down. So there's our answer there, b squared minus b minus 6 for number 2. Number 3 with the g variable. So it starts off like this with g times g plus 4, 2 times g plus 4, and then you're multiplying. We're going to combine the 4g and the 2g together. And so your answer is g squared, 6g when you combine the g's together, and then plus 8. So it's a positive 6g. These are both positive, so you add them together. Number 5 with the n variable. So 3n is going to multiply n plus 1, and then negative 4 is going to multiply n plus 1. And so we end up with all of this. And so 3n squared is going to come down. We're going to combine here. So this is subtracting these. Take 3 away from negative 4. It's a negative 1n, or just negative n there. And the negative 4 comes to our answer. So 3n squared minus n minus 4 should be your answer for 5. And then for number 6, with the r variable here, so r times 3r plus 2, 3 times 3r plus 2, you multiply with distributive property, and you have 2r and 9r. Those are like terms. You're going to combine those. So the 3r squared, this will be 11r plus a 6. 3r squared plus 11r plus 6. All right, so hopefully you're able to get those correct. If you're not, if you didn't get something correct, just see what I did here. Maybe pause it and check your work, and see if you can figure out what you may have done to make a mistake. All right, let's move on to our next part. So the next section is going to do the same thing. We're multiplying two binomials. Again, same problem. We're just going to be doing it a little bit different way. We're going to do it with, as you can see there in the next section, with like a little table. So this is be using the table here. So this is our table that we're going to use. So the first one in the parentheses, the 2x minus 3, can be going up on top here, 2x and the minus 3. And then the second one, x plus 5, goes along the side over here. The x, the positive 5, a lot of times I put a plus here with 5. And then you just multiply with the table. So these two are going to multiply to give you this here of 2x squared. And then negative 3 and x, we're going to multiply, and we'll put that in here. Negative 3x. The 2x times the 5 is going to go right down in here. That's going to be 10x. Negative 3 times 5 is going to go in this last one. That's negative 15. So this is just a way kind of multiplying, so it's organized this way. It's organized in a table, so it kind of makes it easy for you to do that. The last thing though, so again we have 4 terms. You want to look and see which terms are like terms. That's these two right here, negative 3x, positive 10x. So I'm going to take 3 away from 10. That's going to give me 7x. So my answer then is the 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. Still a trinomial answer for these. It's just a new way of doing it. So let's do it. Go ahead and try that way on the next section here, 7 through 12. I'll go ahead and do 7 and 10, and you guys can be doing some of these. I might actually even do 11, because 11 might be a little bit different. So number 7, we start off with the x minus 3 is going to be on top. So you can put x and then the minus 3 in this one. The x minus 2 is going to go down the side here. So you have your x and your negative 2. And so these two will multiply to give us this first one here, so which is just x squared, and then x times negative 3 will give me a negative 3x. X times negative 2 for here gives me negative 2x, and the negative 3 and the negative 2 multiply to give me positive 6 there for that last one. And I circled the ones that were like terms, as you can see, the negative 2x, negative 3x, so that way our answer here on this one is the x squared, the negative 5x, which is the combination of these two that I circled, and then plus 6. You combine like terms there with the x's. Okay, let's take a look at number 10. So the 2w minus 5 will go up on top. So 2w and a minus 5. W minus 3 goes down the side here. So the w and then the minus 3. So you multiply 2w and the w is a 2w squared for the first one. The negative 5 times this w here is a negative 5w. The 2w times the negative 3 will be here, so negative 2 times negative 3 is negative 6 with a w. And then the negative 5 times negative 3, negative times negative is positive, so positive 15. And again, I circle the ones that were like terms. The w's here are the like terms. They are the same sign, so it's going to be keep it negative, and you'll add those numbers to a negative 11. So our answer here is the 2w squared minus 11w plus the 15. There's our trinomial answer. Now I'll go ahead and try, I'll show you number 11, then you can do these other three. This one's just a little bit different, maybe because of this being in the opposite order than what we saw before. So 6h minus 2 up on top, 6h and the minus 2. Negative 3 and negative 2h will be over here. So negative 3, negative 2h. And you still do the same thing. 6h times negative 3 is negative 18h. Negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive, oops, hold on a second, there it goes, positive 6. 6h, negative 2h right here is going to be your negative 12h squared, and then negative 2 times negative 2h is positive 4h. So what we're noticing on this one is just kind of the order is a little bit mixed up than the one over here. We still want to put our answer in descending order. The x squared is going to go first, the 6 will go last, and we're going to combine like terms here with these h's. I got to take 4 away from negative 18. That's going to be negative 14. So our answer starts off with a negative 12h squared minus 14h plus 6. So that's our answer. So still going to be trinomial in descending order. You always want your answer to be in standard form, or which is descending order, highest exponent to the constant. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video now and try 8, 9, and 12 on your own, and then just play it to check your answer. Okay, so hopefully you have an answer for 8, 9, and 12. So for 8, we have our y plus 1. Like I said, I usually like to put the plus with the 1 if it's a positive. You have to put the negative when it's negative, but you don't have to put the positive sign. I like to put it though. Y minus 6 over here on the side, and then what we're going to be multiplying here, you can see there's a y squared. You're getting a y in this one here. You're getting negative 6y for this one, and then negative 6 for the last one. You're going to combine the y's together, and so your answer should be y squared minus 5y minus 6. Number 9, you have your q plus 3 on the top. It's q and a positive 3. Q plus 7 on the side over here. Q and a positive 7. And then when you multiply, you're going to get q squared in this first box, and 3q, positive 3q in the second box, positive 7q in this box here, and then the last box is positive 21. And I like to put the positive signs. It just reminds me to put those positive signs in the answer when I see it. So you combine these two to a 10q, a positive 10q. So our answer is q squared plus 10q plus the 21. And then number 12, this one's a little bit backwards as well, kind of like number 11, but still just put them in the way they are. Negative 3 and then a positive 4j. This one's going to be, oops, there it is, 3j and then positive 4. And so now when we, there we go. So negative 3 times the 3j is a negative 9j. The 4j and the 3j make a positive 12j squared in this box. Negative 3 and a positive 4 make a negative 12 in this box here. And then positive 4j and times a positive 4 make a positive 16j. Combine the j's together, which is really subtractant. You're subtracting because they're different signs. Take 9 away from 16. So that's going to give you right there a 7j in the middle. So your 12j squared from this box, your positive 7j from combining the like terms, and the negative 12 from this box. And that's our answer. So again, hopefully you got those answers correct. And if you didn't, just look and see what you did wrong, and maybe you can figure out where you might have made a mistake. Alright, so let's take our joke of the day pause here. How do you make antifreeze? How do you make antifreeze? Well, antifreeze, if you're not sure, is typically what you would put in a car. You put that in a car, a radiator of a car. And you buy it from probably an auto place, or maybe you can get it from the store as well. But how do you make antifreeze? Well, here's how you do it. You steal her pajamas. You steal your auntie's pajamas. That will make your auntie freeze. All right. If you see your aunt, one of your aunts, you can say, how do I make you freeze? I steal your pajama. That's how I make Auntie freeze. She'll probably like that one. All right, let's go on here. Going to continue with just multiplying two binomials. Here's another method. So we looked at the horizontal method with it's kind of like a double distributive property. We looked at that kind of organizing it in a table. You could do it that way. Or you can organize it with this little FOIL method here. It's just a way to remember. If you can remember FOIL, that's a very popular thing that's learned in algebra that has to do with multiplying two binomials. Most people will remember FOIL. If you ask your parents, they'll probably remember FOIL. So FOIL is a way just to multiply two binomials. It really is just a way to remember how to do the double distributive properly. Honestly, it's not much different. So you're just going to do first terms, outer terms, inner terms, last term. That's what FOIL stands for. First, outer, inner, last. So you're going to multiply the first terms in the parentheses. That's the x and the x, getting x squared. Then you'd multiply the outer terms in the parentheses. That's the x and the 2, giving you 2x. You multiply the inner terms in the parentheses. That's going to give you a 1x, or just x. And then you multiply the last terms in the parentheses. That's going to give you a 2. And so there's your four terms. And you'd want to combine the like terms of these two. Typically, it's usually the outer and the inner terms that are like terms. So the 2x plus x is a 3x, and there's our answer, the x squared, the 3x, which was the combination of these two, and then the 2. So again, first, outer, inner, last for FOIL. That's what we would just need to remember. We can remember that, and that helps us remember how to do that double distributive property. It's kind of like what you're doing. You're taking this first term and distributing it to these two. That's what your first and outer are doing. Then you're taking basically this 1 and multiplying it times those two, and that's your inner and last terms. All right, let's take a look at our extra practice. Page 213 says use the FOIL method to find the product now. All right, so number 13, I'll do 13 and 16, and then you guys can be working on some of the rest of this. So for first terms, this is going to be first, outer, inner, last. So first, the first terms is going to be the x times the x. The first one in the parentheses. That's the x and the x. Multiply x and x to get x squared. Okay, outer, F-O-I-L, remember? Outer terms. So the O is going to be the outer is the x and the negative 3. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. The inner terms is these two in the middle, these two on the inside, 2 times x. So 2 times x is just a positive 2x. I put the positive sign there just to show it's positive. And then the last ones are the last ones in the parentheses. That's the 2 and the negative 3. So last is 2 times negative 3, which would just give you a negative 6. I forgot to put the little equal sign there, but it's a negative 6. So now we would want to just clean up here these two outer and inners. You want to combine the like terms there. And so you do that. You combine those two. So here's your four terms. You're going to combine these two to a negative x in the middle. So our answer is just x squared minus x minus 6. There's our answer for 13. Let's take a look at number 16. So your first terms, 2m and the m are the first terms. And that's going to give you a 2m squared. The outer is 2m and the 2. The ones that are on the outside there. And that's 2m times 2 is a positive 4m. The inner ones here on the inside, negative 1 times m. Negative 1 times m is negative m, or negative 1m, but you don't need to put the 1. And then the last ones is the negative 1 times the 2. So negative 1 times 2 is just a negative 2. So again, that gives you four terms. We're going to combine the m's right here, which is the outer and inner terms together. 4 minus 1 is a 3m in the middle. So it's 2m squared plus 3m minus 2 for our final answer. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video, and I'm going to have you do the same thing for 14, 15, 17, and 18. So go ahead and try to do those four problems, and then just play to check your answers for multiplying these binomials with the FOIL method. Alright, so hopefully you have answers now for these four, 14, 15, 17, and 18. So number 14, you should see there. I'm going to show it to you kind of like this as well. You could do it this way. I did it like this, and that's fine. But you can also do it this way. where I just kind of do the distributive property 2 times, or the first one, z times z is your f, okay? And then you got your O is this way, your outsides. Your z and your 2 is the outside, or the outers. The inner ones, or the inside ones, right here is the I, z, and 3. And then the 3 and the 2 is the last. So when I multiply those, for FOIL, F-O-I-L, your first ones are going to be right there, z squared. Your outer ones, z times 2 is 2z. Your inner ones are 3z. And the last ones there is 6. Combine these two in the middle. That's going to give you a 5z in the middle. So there's your final answer there. Z squared plus 5z plus 6. All right, for 15 with the letter h as our variable, here's what we should see. Your FOIL here, and you can see your f would be multiplying h and h squared. Outer is 4 times h, it's 4h. Inner is 2 times h, which is negative 2h. Last one is negative 8. Combine these two middle ones, just take 2 away from 4, it's a positive 2. There's your answer, h squared plus 2h minus 8. Number 17 with n as the variable on this one. So your f, your first terms, 4n times 3n is a 12n squared. Your outer ones, 4n times 4 is a 16n, so it's positive 16n. Your inner ones are negative 1 times 3 is negative 3n. And then the last one's negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. And we combine the n's here in the middle. So the n's combine their like terms, take 3 away from 16, it's 13. So 12n squared plus 13n minus the 4 is our answer. And then for 18, with the letter q as the variable. So the first ones is the negative q times the positive q, negative q squared. Outer is negative q times 1, that's a negative q, or negative 1q. You can put the 1 in front, you don't have to though. The inner is negative 1 times q as well, so another negative q. And the last one's negative 1 times 1 is negative 1 for last. Combine the two negative q's in here, so it's negative 1 and negative 1 makes negative 2q. So negative q squared minus 2q minus 1 is our answer on that one. So hopefully you were able to get those correct, and if you did not, then just go ahead and take a look and see, you pause it and see if you can kind of figure out what you may have done wrong. Simple mistakes are usually the problem on some of these. Just a little quick, easy multiplication mistake might happen. So that's why you want to be really careful as you're multiplying these out. All right, let's move on to number 19 through 24. So 19 through 24, now we've kind of shifted from multiplying two binomials to multiplying a binomial times a trinomial. It says find the product. So when we find the product here, we're going to just use the horizontal method. The method that we learned first with two binomials, that's the method we want to use here for multiplying a binomial times a trinomial. So I'm going to multiply, I'm going to just take my x, the first one in this binomial, and I'm going to multiply it by the trinomial. And then I'm going to take the second one in this binomial, negative 2, and I'm going to multiply it by that trinomial using distributive property. So here's x times the trinomial, and then this one is negative 2 times the trinomial. So now I'm going to distribute here, and I'll write all, when I multiply and I distribute, I'll write those just right down here. And again, I like to put them in column form just like I did before when I was doing this horizontal method. So x times x squared is x to the third. So we're going to start by seeing x to the third. X times x is x squared, and then x times negative 1 is negative x. And then we come to the one here in blue, which is negative 2 times that same trinomial, negative 2 times x squared. We're going to put that under the x squared term there, is a negative 2x squared. So negative 2 times x squared is negative 2x squared. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is a positive 2. So here I have two that are lined up. So I have x squareds are like terms and the x's are like terms. I got to combine those to be able to get my answer. As you can see, I'm going to have 4 terms in my answer. The first term is just this x squared. The last term is the 2 plus 2 at the back. But then I'm going to combine here. I got to subtract 1 away from negative 2. And these ones I'm going to add because they're the same sign. So my answer here, I got my x to the third, negative 1x squared, or just negative x squared for this one. And this one's going to be negative 3x, still negative, and you're adding 1 plus 2, and then the 2 there at the end. So you get a 4-term polynomial answer, typically when you're going to multiply a binomial times a trinomial. Alright, let's come on. There's a couple other ones that might be a little bit different on these ones. I think I'm going to do the odd ones, and I'll have you come back and do the evens. So for number 21, let's take a look at 21. We're going to start with h, and I'm going to multiply the trinomial for the first part. H times our trinomial here. And then 1, the second one in the binomial, positive 1, is going to multiply the same trinomial. So the positive 1, I put plus 1 there. I don't like to just put 1. I like to see the plus sign in front of it, and then the trinomial. So distribute this h in the red one here from the first term times the trinomial. So it's h squared for the first part, negative h, or h to the third part. So h times h squared is h to the third. H times negative h is negative h squared. H times the negative 1 is negative h. And then 1 times this whole trinomial is not going to change anything about this trinomial. So basically you're just writing this trinomial down below, and I'm going to line up my like terms. So the first one is just h squared, a positive h squared, that's going to go there. Then you have a negative h, goes underneath the other negative h, and then the negative 1 goes there in the back. And so what we can see here is our h to the third's coming down. These two, when I combine them, they're actually opposites. Negative 1, positive 1, they're really going to cancel each other out. And you're not going to have any h squareds in your answer. You're going to have a negative 2h when you combine these, and then the minus 1. So you only have 3 terms in your answer because we canceled out the h squareds. So you have h to the third from the first part here, the negative 2h, and the minus 1. All right, let's take a look at 23. 23 is only different in the sense where it's kind of switched. It puts the trinomial first and the binomial second, but I'm not going to do it any different. I'm going to start with the first one in the binomial, the 2n. I'm going to multiply it by my trinomial. That's going to be in this part here, 2n times the trinomial. Then the 1 in the second one in the binomial here is going to multiply the same trinomial. So positive 1 multiplies the trinomial. So when I multiply this one, 2n times 3n squared, 2 times 3 is 6, and you're going to get an n to the third, so 6n to the third. 2n times 2n is a 4n squared. 2n times negative 5 is negative 10n. And this one, since it's just plus 1 here, you're not doing anything different to the trinomial. It's kind of like the one we just did up here when we multiplied by 1. You don't change the trinomial, you're just going to pretty much copy that down. So 3n squared is going to go underneath the other n squared here. And the 2n goes underneath the n, and then the minus 5. And so our first term is going to be 6n to the third. Our last term is negative 5. And you got to combine here to get 7, positive 7n squared. Subtract these two because they're different signs, and it's a negative 8n. So 6n to the third, positive 7n squared, negative 8n, and a minus 5. All right, so go ahead and pause the video now. You should be able to understand how to do this. Try 20, 22, and 24 on your own and see if you can do these correctly for 20, 22, and 24, and then play the video to check your answer. All right, so hopefully you've got answers now from 20, 22, and 24, and you're just checking your answer. So number 20, we're going to start with 20 here. Notice I could do the same thing as far as just kind of showing you here that I can say I'm going to take the 2, I'm going to multiply it by all 3 of those, okay? So I could write it out like this, or I could kind of just do this with some lines. So you can do that as well. You can just do it with some lines like that. That's how you know. And you could do the same thing with negative a. You're going to take the second one in the binomial, and you're going to multiply it by all 3 of those. So if you start off with 2 times the first one, with this first line right here, that's going to be 6a squared. 2 times the 3a is the 6a, then 2 times the last one in that trinomial is negative 10. Then you go with negative a times 3a squared. That's going to be negative 3a to the third power. So I put that up in front on this one because it's kind of a little bit switched here, because these two are switched. The 2's in front of the a on this one. And then a times the 3a is a 3a squared, so that lines up with the other a squared. And then negative a times negative 5 is positive 5a, that lines up with your 6a. And so your first term is going to be this negative 3a to the third. Your last one's the minus 10. Combine here, so you're subtracting on these ones and you're adding on these ones to get your answer. Negative 3a squared plus 3a, or negative 3a to the third power plus 3a squared. That's taking 3 away from 6 here to get a positive 3. 6 and 5 make 11, so plus 11a, and then the minus 10 goes in the back. All right, so number 22. So 22, you should be getting this here. When you're multiplying d times this trinomial, you're getting d to the third power, negative 4d squared, then plus d. And then when you multiply 3 times the trinomial, you're getting 3d squared minus 12d plus 3. And you line up your like terms. That's just, I think, is the helpful thing to do. And so now you can see your answer here is you get your d to the third that comes down. These two are going to subtract to give you a negative d squared. And these two also subtract. Take 1 away from negative 12, it's negative 11d, and then your 3 comes down, plus 3 at the end. And then for 24, so number 24, we have, I'm going to do 3p. Again, this is kind of backwards. It's kind of like 23 here. I'm going to do the 3p times all 3 of those first, then negative 1 times all 3 of those. So 3p times 2p squared is 6p to the third. 3p times p, 3p squared. 3p times the negative 3 is negative 9p. Negative 1 times all of these will just change the signs. It'll be a negative 2p squared. I'll line that up with the p squareds. This becomes negative p going underneath negative 9p. This becomes positive 3 there at the end. So our answer here, as you can see, the 6p to the third comes down. You're going to subtract this. That's going to be a positive p squared. You're going to add these two that are the same sign for a negative 10p. And then the 3 comes down there at the end. Alright, so I believe that is our last answer, our last problem there for today. Yeah, that was it. Okay, so that is how you're multiplying binomials. That's how you're multiplying binomial times trinomial. So we're multiplying the polynomials in this lesson. And in the next lesson, we're going to still be multiplying polynomials, but we're going to multiply some special ones. That's what's going to happen in the next lesson. So until then, I'll see you on the next lesson. Have a great rest of your day.